I followed the group into the hallway leading away from the main hall. Ezra walked in front, her companions' voices trailing after her like smoke. The air was cooler here. The sounds of laughter and clinking glasses faded behind us. I kept a careful distance, moving as quietly as my twisted ankle would let me. My heartbeat was loud, but I forced it steady. Eyes on the group, always on them. Was this suicide? Quite possibly. I hadn't even known Ezra had friends. Turns out she did. And here I was, spying on a whole gaggle of them. Getting caught was likely not the sort of thing any reasonable person would ever want to happen to them. Admittedly, a reasonable person probably wouldn't be here spying in the first place. And yet, here I was. At the end of the corridor, they stopped at the door. One of them opened it. I caught a glimpse inside. Red, tattered fabric, low lights, and shadow pooling thick in the corners. I crept closer, back to the wall. They hadn't shut the door all the way. My skin prickled as I reached it and leaned in to look. A low table sat in the middle of the room. The chairs around it were draped in faded velvet. Ezra slouched in one of them, her posture relaxed but sharp, like she owned the place. Her companions circled close, taking seats around the table, their faces half lost in drifting steam that seemed to rise from nowhere.
"So, you think it's true?" one said. "What's there saying about the mutiny in Zashlash?"
It wouldn't be the first time someone inside Hara's temple tried to take her down,
said another.
"I held. Daintily pulled it off,"
said a third.
"Some say they did. That she's dead."
Ezra snorted. "Not a chance. Sathara Omharem is the chosen of Venera. The gods' chosen ones do not go down that easily. Not even those chosen by pitiful gods like Venera. If there was a mutiny, Sathara crushed it. You can count on that." One of the wardens perched on the arm of a chair, sipping something dark. Her smile was lazy, her eyes sharp.
"I agree,"
she said.
"And imagine what's happening to the traitors right now."
A ripple of laughter moved through the group. Quiet, cold, pleased.
Poor fools,
one of them said.
Suffering might be the path to enlightenment, but I wouldn't want to be in their shoes right now. If they hadn't been nailed to the walls by their tongues, I'd be surprised.
"Or buried alive in the salt pits,"
said another.
"No, the tongues are more Sathara style. You know, more personal."
One of them turned her head.
Speaking of personal, Ezra, I saw you earlier talking to the Firaji.
Ezra scoffed. "And?"
"What were the two of you talking about?"
"We weren't. She came sniffing around asking questions. I told her to get lost."
"What kind of questions?"
Ezra hesitated, then leaned back in her chair, drumming her fingers on the armrest. "She asked about the fourth garden."
"Why in Doral's name would she be asking about that?"
"She's digging," said Ezra. "For dirt. On Azure, I believe. Desperate to find something that isn't there. Gods know why."
"She's unhinged,"
another muttered. "She doesn't belong here," Ezra said, her voice dripping with venom. "The gods may have chosen her, but she doesn't carry them in her heart. And if we don't stop her... Can you imagine this place with her as High Priestess? It's a pitiful joke."
"Disgusting,"
said another. "Has anyone found anything new?" Ezra added. Anything we can use against her.
Nothing that would change Azira's mind. But I did manage to dig up one tasty little secret.
What?
Apparently, Emilia went to the Tower of Slumber with your sister.
Please. Ezra scoffed. That's old news. I asked the druid myself. Nothing useful. She went seeking help for some reoccurring nightmare. Something to do with her missing eye. Irrelevant. It doesn't help us. Has no one learned anything? Silence. Ezra rolled her eyes. Useless. The lot of you. Good thing I've found something then.
You have?
Mm-hmm. Apparently the bitch had a falling out with my sister.
A falling out?
Yes. And I wonder if we can use that. Maybe get Lara on our side. If anyone has dirt on the little princess, it's my sister.
Wait,
Another companion sat up.
Delara. She was friends with some of the Wardens who vanished before Emilia arrived, right?
Lara has no friends, Ezra said flatly. Never has. She's weak. Always has been. And everyone sees it.
Still, I think I remember her talking with one of them a few times, even. What if she could confirm what we've suspected all along? That their disappearance has something to do with Emilia's arrival.
Ezra was quiet for a moment. Then a low, menacing sound slid out through her lips. You might be onto something. Now that I think of it, I also remember her with one of them. What was her name? The skinny one. Lunathi. Maybe Lara knows something, or at least suspects something. We should speak to her before she and the Faraziv square up. Crouched outside the door, listening, a sharp pain shot through me. I had no idea what they were talking about. Missing Wardens. It didn't matter. What mattered was that these vipers were trying to turn Delara against me. Would she let them? The thought cut deep. It wasn't unthinkable. In fact, it was more than possible, considering how we'd left things. And that wasn't even the worst of it. Apparently, Ezra and her snakes were spying on me, actively, looking for something they could use to change Azura's mind. What if they found out about the sealed garden? That I'd been inside? What would Azura do to me if she found out? The faceless voice echoed in my mind.
She yearns to be you too.
My heartbeat picked up, fast and loud. I tried to stay calm, but it was no use. When I tuned back in, the conversation had shifted. The companion on the arm of her chair was speaking.
And Najira nearly destroyed Loch Lalish,
she said, finishing a thread I'd missed entirely. Ezra snapped. Nedra! Don't speak the instigator's name. That filthy traitor nearly cost our kind everything Azura built. She doesn't deserve to be remembered. Let Legina claim her memory.
Still, you can't deny there was a certain charm to the chaos that followed,
Nedra said, smiling faintly. Ezra scoffed. Not worth it.
Remember when Azura sent us to clear out that grove in the Valeswood? Ah, yes, the Othali deserters.
Another chimed in.
They bled like stuck vessels. Don't tell me you didn't enjoy that, Ezra. Come on. That wouldn't have happened without the instigator stirring the pot.
I didn't enjoy it, Hunari. Ezra spat. I ended those filthy deserters because they posed a threat to the temple. That's what I'd seen in my dreams, and thus Our Lady commanded me to eliminate them. Azura respects me greatly, you know. She knows my dreams carry meaning. My heart lurched. Dreams? What did she mean by that? Through the gap in the door, I stared unblinking at Ezra. Ezra took a sip from her glass before her eyes narrowed slightly. Speaking of dreams, she said. The room stilled. The air grew heavier. Her companions exchanged quick, uneasy glances before Ezra spoke again. I've been having more of them recently.
You have?
Yes. I've been dreaming of an oak gnarled and ancient, standing alone on a bare windswept mountain. A forest below. Not the Lochlolesian forest, mind you, but pined and grey. And there was a woman there. A human with red hair. Just like our little princess. Ezra paused, voice dropping before she continued. She was planting a seed before the oak. And then I saw fire.
Fire?
Yes, Veshera. Fire. Swallowing the forbidden temple. Blood running down the stairs, pooling in the garden paths. Silence followed, thick enough to cut. A chair creaked as one of the companions shifted.
Do you think it means something?
All my dreams mean something, Kunari. Ezra hissed. Though not always in a literal sense. The dreams can be allegorical.
Allegorical? What, are you some kind of poet now?
Don't jest with me, Ezra spat. I just told you I saw our sacred home in flames, and you jest.
Sorry.
So, fire and blood, huh?
Another said, voice low.
Do you think it means war is coming?
Ezra scoffed. Of course war is coming. You don't need dreams to know that. Conflict is the natural state of the world. War is always on the horizon. It is the way of the Erden. One of the companions leaned back, pulling a slender pipe from his sleeve. She struck a flame from a tinderbox, just a quick spark, but bright enough to light up her face for a second. Sharp cheekbones, bug-like eyes. Then the smoke rose, thick and pungent, curling around her like mist. The smell hit fast, nauseating. Ezra's lip curled. She waved a hand in irritation. Take that outside, Aura. You know I can't stand that filth. Aura sighed, but she stood, pipe between her fingers, and turned toward the door. Toward me. My breath caught in my throat. I backed up fast, bare feet catching on the uneven floor. I almost fell but caught myself. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might echo down the corridor. I turned and slipped back down the hallway, moving fast but quiet, trying not to limp. The hush of stone and shadow gave way to the low murmur of voices as I re-entered the main hall of the House of Tainted Virtue. I looked around. Voices and bodies everywhere. Perfumed air pressed close, thick with sweat and rot. Laughter slid like knives between silken conversations. I ducked into the crowd, breath tight, head low. Finally, I turned to see Aura exit the hallway I myself had just escaped. She stopped and stood in the archway, smoking her pipe. She didn't follow. She just stood there, unmoving. Thank the gods, she hadn't noticed me. Aura, I'd heard her name before, although I couldn't remember where. She looked brutal, bald but for a single braid that hung down her back. Where others in this place wore gauze and glamour, Aura still wore armor. Chitin. Dull in places, crusted at the seams, but sharp where it mattered. The edges looked like they could flay meat from bone. I stayed where I was, blending into the crowd as best I could. Eyes locked on the archway. I was waiting for Aura to go back to the others, back to the Vipers. Only then could I slip in behind her and keep eavesdropping on Ezra. But Aura didn't move. She took a long drag from her pipe, her face unreadable, hard as rock, unblinking, staring straight ahead like a statue on guard. Gods, was she ever going to go back? Minutes passed, and still she stood there, planted in the archway like she'd been carved to fit it, blocking my only path back to Ezra. Finally, she stubbed out her pipe and slid it away. But just as she turned, another warden approached. Morana. She moved like a cat, slowly and graceful. Her fingers grazed the edge of Aura's armor as she leaned in close, whispering something into her ear. Aura didn't react at first. Then her mouth curled into a faint smile. She shifted her weight, relaxed, leaning against the wall. Her posture changed, but her position did not. She turned toward Morana, close enough to touch, and the two began talking. Soft, amused, intimate. Aura's hand drifted from her hilt to rest against the wall, just beside Morana's hip. Time passed. 5 minutes, 10, maybe more. Aura and Morana were still there, locked in low conversation, all sharp smiles and slow touches. They weren't going anywhere. With a bitter breath, I finally gave up. I turned and walked toward the door leading out of the House of Tainted Virtue. My steps were careful, quiet, threading through the crowd. I kept my head down, ignored the stares, tried to shut out the silk-soft voices that seemed to follow me like whispered poison. The exit loomed ahead, tall and heavy. I pushed the doors open with trembling hands. Crisp night air swept over me, sharp, sweet, and laced with something that felt like failure. I'd come to this place for answers. All I got was more questions. I stepped outside and let the door slam shut behind me. The silence of the temple grounds felt almost jarring after the heat and murmur of the House of Tainted Virtue. I didn't stop. I just walked, past the trees, past the courtyards. My steps aimless, my thoughts snarled and restless. Ezra and her companions, their whispers, their venom. They were going to try to turn Dilara against me. I didn't know if it would work, if Dilara would let them. But the fact that it wasn't unthinkable drove into me like a spear to the heart. The path curved, and I found myself at an overlook. Below, the lower terraces of the Forbidden Temple sprawled in shadow. Lantern light shimmered across the mushrooms scattered through the trees, thin veins of color against the dark. Luminous winged creatures drifted between the trunks, their powder-dusted wings catching the glow as they moved in slow, ghost-like arcs. It should have been beautiful, peaceful, in its own disgusting way. But the silence felt brittle, like it could fracture at any moment. I found a low stone bench and sank down onto it. My ankle flared with pain, but I barely noticed. My gaze wandered, unfocused, skimming over shapes and shadows without really seeing any of it. What was I supposed to do now? After the things Ezra had told her companions about the sealed garden, it was clear she didn't know anything about Azura's secrets. Maybe Delara didn't either. Unless Ezra had been lying, even to her own companions. That was possible. But either way, I was no closer to the truth than I'd been before. What was I even doing? Stumbling through the dark, chasing threads that unraveled the moment I caught them. My head began to throb. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, pressing my hands to my temples, and let out a shaky breath. I felt like I was losing my grip. A dozen half-formed questions tore through my thoughts like claws. None of them had answers. Then, without warning, Delara's face rose before my mind's eye. Angry, hurt, the way she had looked when she told me she hated me. And then I saw her as she'd been before. Kind, steady, gentle. I missed her. Gods, I missed her. Her calm, her presence, the way she made this place feel almost bearable. Even now that she hated me, even now that she might turn on me, I missed her. I was alone. Completely alone. Every step I took in this place only seemed to drag me deeper into confusion. Azura hiding shrines to the enemies of the Erden, Dren's warnings, the Druid's insight. Delara and Ezra may be aware of Azura's secrets, maybe not. And now Ezra and her Vipers were conspiring to make Azura change her mind about me. It was bad. Not that I knew exactly what Azura truly intended for me, but I knew that anything Ezra added to that plan could only make it worse. What chance did I have? I dragged a hand down my face and swallowed hard. My vision blurred. I thought I might cry. And then a memory surfaced. Ezra's dream. The things she'd told her companions about it. It felt familiar. Not the fire and the blood, but the part about the oak tree on the mountain. That definitely felt familiar. I reached for the memory and found only fog at first. Then I remembered it. Blotseth. After the captain had taken the ship and left me alone, I'd been knocked unconscious. And before I woke on that cart in the ash wastes, I had seen it. An oak, a mountain, wind-swept and alone. That was when I'd first heard the faceless voice, wasn't it? And I had dreamed of it again, after Azura took my eye. The same tree, the same windswept mountain peak. Now Ezra was dreaming of it too. That couldn't be a coincidence. I straightened, my breath catching. Sench. I had to speak to Sench. Delara had once told me that Ezra had suffered from nightmares as a child, and that Azura had sent her to the Druid to be rid of them. And earlier tonight, while I'd been eavesdropping, Ezra had said she'd visited Sench again, asking about me. But he hadn't told her the truth. He'd lied. Told her I'd come because of the nightmares about my eye. Did that mean he was on my side? Maybe. Either way, if Ezra and I were dreaming the same dreams, it meant something. And if anyone could help me understand what it meant, what any of this meant, it was him. The master of dreams. The thought was a lifeline, and I grabbed it. Maybe, if I was lucky, he could help me survive whatever was coming. Help me understand the unspeakable dangers waiting for me in this place. I rose slowly, my legs unsteady, but stronger than before. Above me the stars burned faintly, pinpricks of light in the black. Tomorrow I would go to Sench. He was my last hope.